Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Play Some Video Games. It is I, your host, Kevin, and with me once again is the culinary rebel. At this point, I think we can say the official chef of Play Some Video Games.
I like that.
Cookbook author, Mr. Justin Warner. Sir, how are we doing today?
Oh, man, we're great. We're hanging out. I'm drinking some Rwandan coffee that I brewed in a Chemex cold brew, or Chemex pour over. And yeah, life is good. I'm armed and operational, in the words of the Emperor.
Nothing wrong with that. So you've been super busy since the last time you've been on. So why don't you catch us up, or anywhere we can find you in your little side projects you got going on?
So I just got done live tweeting Guy's Ranch Kitchen. Guy Fieri invited me to his ranch in Santa Rosa, California. Well, it's outside of there. And man, it was bananas. Beautiful scene, beautiful setting. And it's just basically myself, Guy, and like 4 other chefs. And we're just hanging out on his ranch cooking. And so that show is on noon Eastern time on Food Network. And then tonight, I'll be in the Guys Grocery Games Judges Tournament. I think that's on at 8 Eastern. And that's going to be a mell of a hess, to use my grandmother's term. But other than that, yeah, I was just in Rwanda doing some work with the American Refugee Committee. I was hanging out in a refugee camp of about 40,000 Burundians. That was pretty wild. Did some food stuff for them. And then, yeah, what else? I got this show on YouTube with Thrillist called Snack Talk, which is kind of fun. And yeah, other than that, I don't know, man. It's just full tilt boogie 24/7.
I know, man. You've been busy. So let me say, did you breathe a sigh of relief when you showed up for this most recent Guys Grocery Games and realized Alex Guarnaschelli wasn't there this time?
Well, yeah, with the judges tournament, absolutely. I mean, it's a little bit more level of a playing field there, you know?
I feel like anytime I watch Food Network and you see her show up in a competition, everybody else must be like,
oh yeah, man, they cue up the deep strings, you know what I mean? No trumpets, it's all deep strings, cellos and stuff, you know?
I hear you. So the reason we're all here today, well, as usual, I had a weird idea. So going back quite a few months ago, Nintendo did a direct focusing on all indie titles. And there was one there that kind of caught my attention because it really harkened back to me of the days of super early Food Network and watching the Japanese Iron Chef version with the voiceovers and everything. Absolutely love that show. Used to watch it with my wife all the time. We had a blast with it. And this game just was like, wow, this looks just like it. Here's the chairman, the whole nine. It looked, the logo even reminiscent of that. So it's pretty cool. So I wrote in my little notepad, like, all right, once it gets closer to release, I want to reach out to developers, see if I can review this game, because it seems like my kind of deal. So then we fast forward to, episode 101, where Justin was on last time. And after the amazing feedback we got from the community and all new listeners reaching out saying, man, that was great. It was, I may not have understood anything of the video game, but it was really cool to hear the rest of the conversation. So I was like, well, got the wheels turning in my head. I'm like, this could be kind of weird. So let me see if I, reach out to Justin. I said, hey, I got this crazy idea. If I can get this done, are you in? He jumped on board right away, which was awesome. So I reached out to Adult Swim and kind of pitched the idea to him and said, hey, how would you like to have an actual celebrity chef review your video game? And they were like, that sounds amazing. Let's do it. And, well, here we are. We're ready to review Battle Chef Brigade. So in the event you're not familiar with the game, here's the premise. In the fantasy realm of Victusia, the members of the elite Battle Chef Brigade are revered for their ability to skillfully take down monsters and transform their kills into delicious cuisine. But getting in isn't easy. Chefs from across the country must vie for their spots in a high-stakes competition. The game follows 2 contestants, Mina and Thrash, as their journeys throughout the tournament unfold. In order to become a brigader, you need to hunt monsters with combo attacks and prepare your freshly caught ingredients in puzzle-based cooking challenges to serve up winning dishes to the judges, all while on a timer, much like most of the Food Network competitions. So sent this over to Justin. He was able to play it on the Nintendo Switch. I played it on Steam. And you dove right into this game, man. Like within an hour of me sending you the code, you're like, hey, I just played an hour of the game. Overall thoughts. It is weird. You described it too. So we haven't pre-talked any of this out. So it'll be interesting to see how we feel. But your overall thoughts on the premise of the game.
Well, so I want to preface that I heard about this game when it was on Kickstarter back in the day. And so I feel like not only, and I'm not giving any special treatment because It's food, which I love, and it's beyond indie. You know, it's not just an indie studio. This is like Kickstarter based. So this is a game that was kind of like built by the people.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so I heard about it when it was on Kickstarter. I saw it and I was blown away. I was like, this is such a cool concept. I loved the art style that was teased. And I was like, well, I got to get this game, like, no matter what. I don't care, you know, if it's great, if it's bad, if it's wonderful, whatever. So my overall thoughts and impressions are, if you like Iron Chef, you're going to love this game. If you like Food Network, you're probably going to love this game. If you're an aspiring home cook that wonders what it's like to be in the world of these competitive cooking shows, you're probably going to love this game. I feel like if you're like an old... Do you remember, what was it? Like Yoshi's Tetris or something like that? Where
Yoshi's Cookie.
Yes, something like, you know, where it's a puzzler game and you had to like rotate the stuff. Mm-hmm. Some of the puzzles in this can be dastardly, where you're just like, and you'll get so close to the solution in the puzzle, and then you fail, and then you do it again. And there's so many. What I think is most genius about this game is that there are so many aspects of this little tiny puzzle that really mimic what actually goes on in a cook's mind, where, okay, I know that I need to make this dish. This is the end goal. Or in this game, it needs to score 75 points. What am I going to do to get there? And then, like, you try, and you try again, and you throw it out, and you try it again, and you say, I almost got it. I need to tweak it a little more. And it's weird that I think the most shocking thing about this game is that a simple puzzle can truly mimic what it's like to be in a competitive kitchen, in a development kitchen, so on and so forth.
I agree. So to rewind back for people who are like, wait, what are you talking about? The game is a mashup. Part of the game is basically like an old school Golden Axe type thing. You run across the stage. You actually have to fight and hunt your ingredients. So instead of running down the aisles and grabbing your ingredients for, guys' grocery games, you actually have to go and kill a dragon before you can harvest its goods and go back and cook it. When you get back to your cooking station, that's when it turns into, if anyone's familiar with the Puzzles and Dragons series, it's just like that. It's like a match 3 puzzle game where you're able to rotate things, much like Yoshi's Cookie, as you mentioned. And then you still have to score a certain metric to hit or higher than your opponent if you're matching. Now, the judges also have taste preferences, just like in real life, where there'll be certain elements, water, earth, fire, the 3 prominent ones. So you also have to make sure your dish is prominent with that, not just a high score, because you get bonus points for doing that as well. But you're right. I think that the hecticness of it would encapsulate what it means to be in these shows like you had mentioned, where it's like, okay, I have to do X, Y, and Z. How am I going to do that? Run, go, go, go. And you figure it out as you go along. You're right. The puzzles, some of them at first I was like, oh, this is pretty easy. I get this. And then you're 2 or 3 hours into the game and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And you're just kind of flipping stuff and working your way through it slowly as you go along. So definitely an interesting premise. And it's a true mashup of 2. Couldn't be any different or genres into one game and a great package. So you mentioned the Kickstarter thing. So yes, the game's been in development for over 4 years. I did talk to the Tom who developed who was the head developer of the game a little bit before getting my hands on the game too. And he just said it's been a long process. He spent the last months and months just debugging the game for release. So it's definitely been a heart and soul project for him. And yeah, it's been a Kickstarter for a long time. We'll be dropping on Steam and Switch right away. And it does have plans to hit PS4 as well too. So everyone will have a chance to play at that point.
I do have to say that I wasn't expecting the game to feel as not buggy. Like, there were no bugs. I played through the entire game. I never noticed a single thing that I was like, come on, and I've seen like AAA games that have more weird stuff going on than this. This was like it was clearly a finished game when it came out.
Yeah, I noticed that too. There was no slowdowns, no, lag or anything like that. Now, I played on PC, so we don't necessarily see it as much on that end. But on the Switch, that's great to hear because I know a lot of people right off the bat were like, well, how does it run on the Switch? That's like the number one question with multi-platform games now. Did you only play it in handheld, or did you play it docked as well? Was it the same experience?
So I played it both ways, and I got to say that for me, the ideal way is handheld. Mm-hmm. One, I don't know whether it's because I'm like a child of Tetris on the Game Boy, but when I play puzzle games, for some reason, putting them on the TV just doesn't seem as intimate to me. That being said, the visual style in this is so bananas and so beautiful that you kind of want to put it up on the big screen. So one thing I noticed is some of the lines on the big screen looked a little pixelated, maybe a little blurry, which kind of distracted from the beauty of this like hand-drawn sort of environment. But that being said, I don't know. I think this is the perfect game for mobile Switch consumption. Like, I love it. And the puzzles are just short enough and fast enough that it's the kind of thing where I could kind of pick up and play and then go do a task or go do a chore, or maybe I put something on the stove. All right, I got 3 minutes. Boom, knock out a puzzle.
No, that makes sense too. And the art, like you said, beautifulness. It's like playing a cartoon. It runs out, and because it runs so smooth, it looks great too. All the art in this game was hand drawn. There was a game I played and reviewed, I think it was almost 2 years ago at this point, called Yotun, that had hand-drawn art style too, so harken back to that right away, and it looks great. I mean, there's nothing else you can say about it. It looks phenomenal. The animations, the movement from everybody, every character has a distinct look, feel. They all vary between the humans, the orcs, the elves. It all blends well together, but everybody is not... It's not just a cookie cutter process. You're like, oh, it's just this character with blue hair, and then this character with red hair. No, they're all totally different. So to go right from the art then and the graphics, the voiceover acting, this game had a lot of voiceovers in there too. So not all the time did the mouths move, but every character had their own voice, which was funny. I think one of my favorites was like the head of the whole ceremony. Like he was a character. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on the voiceover acting and the musical score too? I guess we'll lump that together.
So I'm like on the fence about this. So I felt that the quality of the voice acting was like Fire Emblem level, know, and like very similar in terms of the intonation and the style in which they spoke. That being said, I thought there was so much voice acting and so much dialogue that at times I was like, "Brah, just like let me get to my ingredients like now," And so, I think that there is like I haven't put it online yet to see exactly what's going on in the online thing, but I think that some of the practice things and online, I think there's a lot less dialogue because there's no plot online. Right. Totally. So I think that's going to be kind of like the thing where I come back to every day, try and get myself higher in ranks and so on and so forth. But I think that the voice acting did a great job at making you kind of get the nuances of the characters. Like, why does this orc like fire? Because he's fiery. Right. I'm like, why is this guy such a ninny? Well, because he sounds like a ninny. Like, and like everybody, all of the voice acting really sounded great. I think that the one person I thought was a stretch was the restaurant owner. She had this kind of like white girl doing a Norse accent sort of thing. And I was like, yo, like, and there's no speed up. I mean, you can click through so you don't hear anything, but like, you kind of want to hear it.
Yeah, totally. You're right. Some of the dialogue in between things was a little bit long in the tooth there. I didn't mind the voice acting as much, but having to read everything to get the stories and kind of like, all right, come on, like you, I want to get to the challenge. I want to play more. And that online leaderboards, daily challenges, you'll probably bypass all that and get into the meat and potatoes of the game that way too. But yeah, you're right. The restaurant owner, it should have been like would have felt better if it was like a Margie, like a diner, like an old diner woman's voice. I think that would have been better than trying to do this Norse thing going for it. But you mentioned it harkened back to Fire Emblem. That's spot on. I had not thought of that, but the second you said it, I'm like, you know what? That's exactly like Fire Emblem Warriors right now. It's the same style, so it's great.
That was my wife who pointed that out. She's like, "Are you playing Fire Emblem?" And I was like, "No." And I was like, taking notes. I'm like, "Lady, I'm reviewing the game, not you."
I'll have to get her on next time. No, just kidding. Yeah, my wife watched it. She walked by as I was playing. She's like, "What the heck are you playing?" She's like, "That looks really cool, but what is going on?" I was like, "It's like Iron Chef, but nah, don't worry about it. It's okay." Yeah, she's just listening in. Was like, weirdo, but
one more thing on graphics. I gotta say that Mina, who's the main female protagonist, the animation of her dodging is probably one of the most addictive and most beautiful looking things. She like gets her knives out to the side, and like it's just like when you're walking down a line quickly, the line being the kitchen, like in a real kitchen, and like you got to dodge and be like behind you. You do the same spin where you're like leaning in the direction you got to go and dive. And like, I was like, oh, like I just, for like the first, I don't know, 15 minutes I played, I was just like diving around and started doing that dodge. It just felt so good.
Yeah, the first time I did it was by total accident. I'm like, oh wait, this is actually really cool and useful. Let me just keep doing that. But yeah, the weapons too. So we actually touch on that too. Every chef that you see that you interact with, the game has their own weapon that they actually use to cook with. So she has the little daggers and knives. It was funny because somebody else had a skewer sword, which I thought was funny. So it was interesting, the little nuances they put into every character to make them different. Besides their element of choice, they also had a different style and everything that went with it. So challenge of the game, did you find it to be overly hard or, anything like that? I mean, we talked about playability, it ran smooth, but as far as understanding what was going on and how hard it was to get through, do you have any struggles there? Or?
Well, so here's the thing. What I am happy about in that there was a lot of dialogue and a lot of build-up in this, and that it honestly eased you into the game, because I feel like had I been given later in the game, you basically get 3 cooking devices.
Yep.
You can have the option of ovens, multiple pans, and cutting boards. And so had I been given all of those options right off the bat, I would have had absolutely no clue what I was doing. I would have been terrified. So I'm glad they like baby stepped you and gave you like one pan at a time, because I feel like in the daily challenges, when you get up to the higher levels and your loadout increases, you're going to be dealing with people that really know how to manipulate those devices.
Yeah.
And so there were puzzles along the way that had me stumped. But in terms of advancing the plot, I got beat like maybe 3 or 4 times, where my food didn't come out as good as the competitors.
Yep.
But I'm happy for that, because I feel like in the daily challenges, that's where you're really going to have your skills tested as to how you can, really build your loadout and really rock with what you've got. Because honestly, you got to like, after a while, you start to know the ingredients and know what elements they're going to bring to the table.
Yep.
And you know where they are in the maps and how to hunt them effectively. And that's all like kind of like part of the things that like chefs deal with. And so, yeah, I didn't think it was an especially hard game. I could see how some puzzles might decrease the chill factor in it. I mean, I never threw my controller or anything.
That's good. Especially if you're playing handheld, that would just be a mess.
Yeah, I never threw my entire system.
That'd be awful. Same as you. I didn't find it overly difficult. Most of the challenges went through. I think same thing. I probably got beat 2 or 3, 4 times probably overall, making my way through. But yeah, there was certainly moments where I'm like, what does this do? Like, they don't necessarily hold your hand in that process of like, okay, here's the sauces. Like the first time I got the sauces, this isn't giving away any story spoilers. We'll stay away from that. So anybody listening, you get the sauces and you can change the element to match that element of the sauces. I didn't know it at the time. I thought that was just another ingredient that would give me 4 more of that thing, not change them. So there's a couple of challenges I hit that and I was like, oh, what the heck did that do? That didn't make any sense. And I had to go back and redo it. So there's certain aspects I think they could have directed you a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. By not throwing it all at you at once is definitely good. Working your way up to the different pans, working your way to start using the oven. That was all done very well. I just think it was the extra stuff that they didn't spend too much time explaining to you. Especially the 2-headed guy in the town that you could buy the extra stuff from. Yeah. Those things, that's literally trial and error. Like some of that stuff was like, okay, what does this do? Okay, how can I apply this? How many of these can I use? Is it a one-time use? Or, they weren't really clear about that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of trial and error to find your groove there. But overall, I think difficulty was like, it was just enough that I was challenged, but not enough to make me say, oh, I don't want to play this again. Like, so it was like the perfect blend, I think, there too.
For sure. One thing that I really liked in terms of gameplay that I thought really mimicked in a very clever way the way in which I compete on shows is there are little like recipe books that are like apprentice skill, journeyman skill, and so like if you cook a vegetarian dish, you're gonna get 50 points extra. And so what I loved is that like when I compete on these shows, sometimes you'll know like, oh, this judge is a sucker for this flavor, and that is echoed in the elements. But sometimes maybe the challenge on these shows is too difficult, or it's, you're not doing well, so you break out a flourish maneuver, like I'm going to make it all vegetarian, or I'm going to cook this thing 5 different ways, or I'm going to do whatever, and that adds brownie points for the fact that maybe you're not going to be able to meet the challenge as well as you could, so you redirect by doing something else. And I love those little books in this for that. I thought that was one of the most creative things in the game.
Yeah, when I first stumbled upon the first book, I didn't understand what it was at that point. But once I realized, I was like, okay, this is actually pretty helpful if you're stuck in certain situations. And you're right, it's like a real chef. What they would do is those exact things. Like, okay, my back's up against the wall. What can I do to try and make the best thing possible? And that experience is what brings it better to the table. You can't do any deconstructed dishes, so you don't get knocked for that for the judges, because that's always a thing. Like, oh, you just did that because you couldn't do it right. Right. None of that happened there. But so the enemies, the different monsters, what were your thoughts on them? Because there was a lot of things that harkened back to real life animals. But like, I thought the art style was really cool in them, especially like the dragons. The bigger monsters were really cool to kind of tackle on and see that. And it was just an original twist to something that we know and see, but they just kind of tweaked it just a little bit to make it their own. Yeah,
I mean, back to the art style in this game, like, this is a fully fleshed out world. You know what I mean? This could easily be a movie. This could be an anime. This could be anything. And every single piece of the puzzle, pun intended, is really just like really well thought out. The little enemies, even their movements, which are very like old school kind of 2D beat 'em up, yep. Where they're a little bit manic and you kind of can't understand what they're going to do next. I really enjoyed. And I think just in general, like, there was a good representation of, hey, this could be a food item or this could be a terrifying monster. And and they really like straddled that line like super well. And I thought that was great. My only real criticism is that I kind of might have wanted to see like another world or just a little bit more variety, because by the time I'd beaten the game, I was like, all right, I know you Squickle, I know you Veerskit, like, yep. I know you Weird Dragon. And also I knew their locations.
Where they hang out. Yeah, that didn't change too much.
And so, I don't know, when it's like Battle Dragon, I'm like, all right, I know where I'm beelining. Yep. And so I guess that kind of felt like, knowing your way around a pantry really well. But at the same time, like, the game aspect was like, I wish there was just a little more here.
Yeah, if they randomized it a little bit, it would add a little tweak to it there too. That's for sure. The one thing I also liked about the enemies that I didn't explore too much, but I thought it was unique, was the whole, hey, you can kill a monster, but then another animal might come across and take it, giving you a different ingredient for doing it. I didn't do it that much, but the first time it happened, I was like, oh, snap. Okay, this is going on now. This is kind of cool. A little different twist.
Yeah, I thought that was a really creative thing to just kind of throw in, especially like when, to get eggs, no spoilers or anything, but the process of getting eggs is pretty cool. I also liked, I thought that it was neat that there were a couple different themes of the levels, and everybody really felt like they were doing, like, all of the monsters felt as though they were part of the appropriate biome. I thought that was pretty cool. I also really liked that they didn't always drop the exact same parts, and sometimes the parts didn't have the exact same puzzle pieces. I thought that kept it pretty fresh, especially like when you have this book that says like, hey, if you use every part of the beast, you get a bonus. Yeah. And so I thought that was pretty neat.
No, definitely. So before we get to like final thoughts on it, is there anything you would change in the game? Like if you say, hey, I would have loved this. This would have put me over the moon, except for this one thing I'd like this way. Any thoughts there?
I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but that being said, there is the main story of the game, and the main story culminates with a kind of like a graduation into the wild world. You can tell it from the beginning, but I kind of wanted to know with the post, like I wanted to see like an epilogue. Yes. I wanted to see like what the foray into the wild world looks like. And maybe that's Battle Chef Brigade 2. But that being said, like I felt like we worked really hard to get to this certain point. And then it was like, all right, well, there you go. That's about it. I just wish there was a little bit more epilogue.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. And the developers have said too that there was more planned initially, but in order to meet the deadlines, in order to deliver the product they wanted to the platforms they wanted to, they're going with this for now.
Right.
One of the other things they mentioned is that they were originally going to use all the different chefs that you see. So all the people you challenge throughout the game were actually going to have playable portions as them too. So that could always come down the line, in the form of DLC or an update down the line. Developers have not ruled that out. They said, depending on what happens with this, we'll continue exploring that and kind of run with that. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, same. I want to see more of, okay, we've gotten to this point, and then what next? And it's kind of like, nope, game over screen. So it's like those old school video games where like you beat the game, it's like, congratulations, end the game. Like that's it. You don't get anything else. Sorry.
For sure.
No soup for you.
The other thing that I wish they would have done is in one of the earliest videos that are like teasers or trailers, the gems were labeled something like salty, sour, sweet, or salty, you know, whatever.
Yep, I saw that.
I just felt like it would have been so easy to step up the like culinary level of this game and have the judges say like, instead of earth, well, I like herbs. Instead of water, being like, I like acid. And instead of fire, being I like spicy.
Sure.
And so I started saying that in my head because like that's just where I gravitate to. But I just felt like it would have clicked it a little more into the culinary realm than in the fantasy realm. Because I mean, come on, man. Like, how long has Dungeons and Dragons been around, man? We've been messing with earth. Yeah. We've been messing with like elements, you know, as a fantasy trope forever. And I thought like having like acid, you know, was crazy. One other thing that I loved about this game was the epithets that each character had, like the Iron Stomach. Dude, my dad used to call himself the Iron Stomach, and like Queen Acid Tongue, and like, you know, I don't know. They just had so many of them. There were plenty of moments for like a chuckle throughout this thing.
Yeah, no, totally. It was, the names were just great because it was just every time they had that entrance into the kitchen coliseum, I think they called it in there, or kitchen arena, it just brought me right back to the Iron Chef show where it's like this grandiose thing, like here's the crowd, here's the chairman unveiling the ingredient, you know, the whole thing, they lift the smoke, and it was just missing like the Alton Brown character doing commentary as you were cooking. That would have been a nice little touch there, but you know, it is what it is. But overall, I think it was pretty good. So final thoughts on the game. Would you recommend it to people, or what type of gamer might you recommend it to? Kind of just final thoughts on it.
So I think if you're a puzzle game person, this is a really refreshing take on puzzle games, especially given that there's kind of like a 2D beat 'em up built into the equation. If you are into cooking, absolutely. If you like kind of like this like hand-drawn art style and you can get behind a puzzler, kind of a fun cooking puzzler, absolutely. I think this is a very refreshing change of pace from like Cooking Mama. Yeah. And I think if you've just ever wondered what it's like to be on like a competitive cooking show, I mean, you sweat bullets by the end of it, you know, and that you're getting that 30 seconds and the clock turns red and you're like, come on, just one more match.
Yep.
In my mind, like as a competitive cook, I'm like, I just need finishing salt, you know, and I'm like, you know. And also when you see yourself starting to crash and burn, that feeling you get is exactly the same. Bottom line, I think for the price of this $20, I think it's definitely worth it. I was addicted, and not because I'm a cook. I was addicted because I simply just wanted to play more of the game. It's got this really nice repetitive hook to it that is pleasant, you know. And it, like I said, you don't get so stressed out, you know.
Exactly. It's good. Same thing. I think if you're a puzzle game fan too, you'll like it probably a little bit more. Definitely is more puzzle than it is combat for sure. Oh, and that's fine. It's a great thing. Like you said, the uniqueness and the twist on this genre, on this specific game is great, which is when you think of it, in my mind, I am going to pick this up on Switch. So I have it on PC. I will be buying this on Switch only because, like you said, I think it's the perfect place to play it there. And it fits that niche market of what Nintendo's trying to do and say, hey, we're bringing you stuff that's different. Play on this platform that's a little bit different. Like it works out perfectly. It seems to be adaptable for most ages. I mean, some really young kids probably won't be able to gravitate to it too much with the puzzle gaming aspect, but if you're a fan of puzzle games, don't let the combat put you off, because you can learn and ease through that combat pretty easily and adjust to it, where the real trick is the puzzling and getting through that kind of stuff there too. So you mentioned $20. It's out now as you're listening or watching this video. $20 on the Nintendo eShop or on the Steam platform. Coming soon, eventually, to PS4 as well, so I don't want to rule that out there. So, Justin, would you say thumbs up, man? You'd approve of this game? You'd recommend it to people?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm there with you. It gets the PSVG seal of approval then. So before we go, Justin, before we wrap it up, this game becomes reality. You're competing.
Oh,
Who wins? Who wins? You or Bobby Flay, man?
Well, I mean, look, Bobby has his experience lies in Mediterranean cooking and Southwest cooking, but I have now cooked Veerskit and Squickle. I mean, for hours upon hours. I can't even tell how many hours I put into the game because like it hasn't updated. It's just like one solid blob of Justin started playing Battle Chef Brigade, and then like they didn't calculate it yet on the Switch. So I don't know, man. I'd be happy to duel almost anybody in this. I felt like by the time I got to the end of this game, I was kind of a little bit of a master. Like I was not unsure. I knew how to appease any judge. And it gets pretty complex by the end.
It does. It ramps up crazy. You start off once, you get one judge, you're like, okay, I can deal with this. And then they throw two judges, and you're like, okay. And like you said, when that clock hits the red and you have 30 seconds left, like, oh man, I gotta get these dishes over. You gotta run over. And it's not just you run over the judge and you drop the dish. You have to like hold the button, and it goes for like 5 seconds, and you're like, come on, put it down, go.
You know what that was a curious mechanic to me, but I explained that to myself as that being like, and today, judges, I have for you, you know, and that's the 5 seconds where you have to like spiel the dish, you know?
Yeah, you're cleaning up, you're wiping down the dish, make sure there's no smudges or anything like that, like last minute things. Oh, yeah. But, all right, so last thing, big thank you to Trinket Games and Adult Swim Games for providing that to Justin and I so we could try it out and talk about it there. Thank you so much. The one thing I will point out, though, Adult Swim Games, I saw you mailed some people some awesome Battle Chef Brigade aprons. I'm just saying, what's up with that? You got Justin here, man. You're sending him to Twitch streamers. You have Justin Warner here. So
I found out one of their marketing PR people followed me yesterday on Twitter. So I have a feeling, man, we might see an apron sooner or later.
I know who you're talking about. I think it's the same person I've been talking to. So I think we're good. We'll see. All right. But so before we go, Justin, where can people find you if they're not following you already, sir?
So I'm at Eat Fellow Humans across the board, including PSN, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I obviously can't give you my Switch friend code, but if you hit me up on any of those media platforms, I will I'll send you my friend code. And other than that, looks like I'm going to be on almost, I don't know, no spoilers, but there should be an appearance by me almost every week until holidays on Food Network.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great. Good job, man.
Thanks.
So thank you, Justin, for joining us again. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Remember to hit the website, placeandvideogames.com. But more importantly than anything, as we get into the holiday season, everybody, remember to never stop gaming.